Welcome back to an episode of Keeping Austin Queered. My name is Sky, and this is episode 10. I am so stoked because this is, I finally got to episode 10, and never thought that would ever happen, ever, when I started this. And I think this is going to be my end of my first season. I felt like this is a good message to kind of end on, number 10, etc. And I kind of want to switch it up a bit. So I have the pleasure of having two amazing people that are in my life and have been to my wedding. And one of them you've actually heard before. Her name is Trina Burks. So say hello, Trina.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back.
Yes. Thanks for coming again. And then we have a new member on my podcast, and this is, introduce yourself.
My name is Michael Lombard.
Yeah. And welcome to the show. I'm so stoked to have you both for this particular topic. And the topic, as you know, well, in the general of Keeping Austin Queered, is we connect through colorful conversations, and this particular episode is about transformation. I know I've been on a transformation journey myself, some things, and honestly, and more recently, and I've watched each and one of you guys grow into your transformation journey, and you guys have done it so well, individually, as well as seeing the impact that you have gathered from other people, and, what you do for work and your social media platforms and outside of what you do work wise. And I think this will help other people. It's spring, it's still the beginning of a new year, and people, it's hard when you're just stuck. So sometimes they just need to hear a little motivation or hear just one word that can maybe change their perspective on getting themselves up and out and to start in a little bit more of a forward path. And I think your guys' story would be awesome to share with that. But before we do that, let's bring it back to, so Trina, obviously you've been on a previous Keeping Austin Queered episode, but of course I got to ask, how do you identify?
I'm a lesbian.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. And then, Mike, we met. Actually, I was trying to think about this earlier, how we met, and I wanted to hear what you thought. I think that we met because it all, at this point blurs together, especially at the age and all the things that have happened in life. But what I do remember, though, is when Keeping Austin Queered, I brought to you and a group of people, but you were kind of dialed into what I was talking about and shared this idea with you. And you were like, bro, this is an awesome idea. Go for it. Have at it. Let it rip. And look at it. 10 episodes later. So sitting in a swim spa, just chilling, hanging out, having casual conversation. And then look what happens when you put one foot in front of the other. But how did we meet?
I'm trying to think. So yeah, first identify myself. I am a straight guy, huge pussy guy. but yeah. So I appreciate you having me here.
Of course,
because I as a guy who's definitely an ally in every sense of the word. I think that there's a lot within transformations that I think that the community, whether in or outside, can benefit from. But as far as I know, what's crazy about how we met is I feel like it's almost a hybrid, because like when I had gotten to Austin, the first people we had gotten in touch with was, our mutual friend Laura, who I was connected with off a gentleman that I had went to high school with, who put me in touch. And then we met her. And then at the same time, we also, my wife and I, Dree, were down, this is during COVID. We're on the other side of Barton Springs, and we ended up meeting these two random girls that my wife started talking to, and then they invited us to go to Rainey Street, and then we meet Veronica, we meet her, and then, through that, we started doing more things. But the two girls that we had met at Barton Springs on the other side, like near the water, had invited us to go on this boat on July 4th, and then that's when we met Trina. And then, but what's crazy is both Trina and Laura, who didn't know each other yet, knew you. And then, somehow the Venn diagram of it just like swung us all together at a certain point. So it's definitely 2020.
Okay.
I can't think of the exact moment. I feel like a piece of garbage.
But neither could I, because I feel like all of us were just like, we all sat on a merry-go-round and just spun the motherfucker, and we all collided. Honestly, that's really what happens. Because I said this before. I have such a, I've been to your hosting Thanksgiving holidays many of times. You've been obviously to my wedding, and there's just been so many big moments that we've all shared, and I have an individual relationship, and I think we all do, with your wife, everyone. So it's just so unique how this particular group has got together, but we all have an individual relationship with each person in that group outside of whoever brought us in. Mm-hmm. So, and I think our biggest connection, Mike, I think we just, for me at least, that we connected on like a higher thinking kind of level. And, not to say anybody in our group doesn't think that way, but, we just kind of, clicked on like work and what we're doing and how we're elevating ourselves and how we're just, climbing to the next best thing. And I just appreciated your words of wisdom and your encouragement. And honestly, your voice note at our wedding phone thing was so cool. And I still remember that. But I think that's how we initially connected individually one-on-one. So I appreciate that. All right. Well, let's get into the part where we get to know each other a little bit better outside of our topic. So I have this game that I randomly pull cards from, and it's called Deep and Deeper. Yes, Deep and Deeper. So pick a card, Trina.
Let's go deeper, baby.
You want to go deeper. Nice. Okay. What's something you do regularly to nurture positive feelings within a relationship? Great question, actually.
In a relationship.
So with your wife.
I'm trying to think of what's something we do. We have a kid now. Obviously.
Regularly.
Yeah. We have an 11-month-old. So he goes down at about 7:30. And after that, we have like an hour and a half.
Okay.
Of time.
You're
together.
like, Alexa, start the timer.
And so it's what's our adventure right now, and if it's sometimes it's literally a TV show and we just like dive into it, and then we go lay in bed and we like talk about the episode, or we've actually done like a canvas where we painted canvas.
Oh, I
but
love
there's
that.
not like
not a specific.
There's not like a specific thing, but it's mostly just knowing that 7:30 to about 9 is this our time together to just kind of both do one thing,
Well, you know what's awesome
together.
about that? A lot of people don't even do that.
Yeah.
So think, kids, not kids, whatever, creating that time for you to kind of be with your significant other to nurture that is huge. So
it's hard too, because you want to clean and you want to, get everything ready, but it's like, this is our time together. We have to sit down. Let's just the dishes later, or we try to like, you put the baby down, I'll do the dishes, so that 7:30 it's our time, and we try to just literally dedicate that to just each other and nothing else.
I love that. Oh, okay. Good answer. Mike, you want to go deeper or you want to go deep?
He wants to go deeper.
If she went deeper, I guess I'll just do deep. Okay, I'll just go along with it. Yeah.
Okay, this is part of a little bit of the transformation as well, I guess. What is the most important lesson you learned as a child?
I'd say as a child, the most important lesson I learned, and it's crazy because this is a quote from a TV show, but I mean, it's just kind of how I was raised. I mean, this is straight from my father. Those who want respect, give respect.
Okay.
Like that's always something I was brought up with. That's like from my grandfather, from my father. Like that's.
Those are pretty big words to take in and understand as a child, I would say. But as simple as it is, like that's monumental. Mm-hmm. Wow. And then you said your grandpa?
Yeah, I mean, that was even something from him. Like, yeah, this idea of if you want respect, give respect. I feel like I was always at a younger age, always told that same, it wasn't the exact catchphrase, but like, having the same respect for the CEO as the janitor. That type of of mantra. It's like, everybody has value, so to speak. Everybody is important. Everybody's worthy of your full respect, and you've got to give it if you want to. Like you want to be treated well. The golden rule. And I know that sometimes it's what's funny about the golden rule. I heard this recently. Like treat others how you want to be treated. In a lot of ways, you just have to start treating people how they want to be treated. And I feel like it's kind of important because that's how I was raised. More treat others the way you want to be treated, I think matters. Mm-hmm. But then as you get older, eventually it's like treat others the way they want to be treated. Yeah. And then you're making it well. And I think that I've learned that through what I learned growing up.
Wow.
It kind of touches on like the love languages too. Like certain people want things a certain way and it's not how you want it.
Yeah.
Once you can align with that, it's kind of
once you unlock that and understand it, changes everything. Yeah, huge. I think what I was going to add to that, it was honestly, that was a big way of how when I was dating, I would use that as a measurement when I would go on dates. I would I want to date and marry someone, and Jason is a beyond example of this. Is that when you're out and about, how does he treat the valet person, the server, the busser, the hostess, the janitor in his own, school, whatever the case may be. And that to me is everything, because I didn't clearly grow up with a silver spoon and had to work and had to do all those type of jobs. Mm-hmm. So I just was like, I know I'll be greater than I am today. But it's important to be that humble and know that everyone plays a role in this world,
Dude, if they're not taking the shopping cart back to the rack,
cut them.
Gotta go.
Unless it's raining, you pop a wheelie and you put it on the curve. All right, let's do one more real quick and let's just go deep. All right, I had that one last. Do you prefer for us to spend more time? Oh, no, that was a couples one. Sorry. Okay. If you could choose one animal to be, who would you choose and why? Trina?
Growing up, I don't know if we call this an animal. I'm going to call it an animal for this. But I used to want to be a dolphin because I heard they were like the savior of the sea. And I was like, I feel like if I was a mammal, I would be a dolphin. You like swim around and you make people happy and you just take care of, I don't know, things in the water.
Yeah.
Do I still align with that? I'm not entirely sure. I think that or maybe a lion because I'm a Leo.
I can see that. I can see both, honestly.
I'm a dolphin lion, baby.
I like dolphins. I would probably pick dolphin too. I don't know. All right, Mike, I feel like this is an easy one for you. Well, but it's deep.
I'm going to have you guess first. Number one, a dolphin is an animal.
It's an animal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
A mammal, animal.
It's an animal. Yes.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Well, let's see. What do you guess? What do you think it is? You probably know this. I think I've said it before.
It's either a tiger or a snake.
Huh.
I don't know why.
Not a snake in not a snake in like a sneaky slithering way, like a cobra. Like, bitch, you are a king cobra. Like I see like that, or a tiger.
Yeah.
What's yours?
I think I'm thinking tiger.
Close. It's undoubtedly an orca.
Insert Free Willy,
which by all means is in the dolphin family. If you didn't know, the orca itself, and
a killer whale.
It's known as the killer whale for anybody who doesn't. And the truth is,
did you watch that movie Blackfish?
Oh no, I don't have the stomach for that. I can't.
Okay,
because I love orcas.
Okay, you truly do. Okay.
The thing is with orcas is what's insane about them is that they don't hunt humans at all. Like they do, like for some reason they are the kings. And by all means, if anybody doesn't know, so the Earth is 70% water.
Yes.
Right. Most of the Earth is water, not land. And the orca is apex predator. Nothing hunts it. Nothing. It hunts great whites. Great white sharks.
What?
Number one predator is the killer whale. That's who takes on great whites. So by definition, the orca rules the planet.
Wow. I did not know that. Did you know that?
Absolutely not.
Great whites don't mess with orcas.
Can't do it.
Why? Why can't they?
The orca's just too fast, too resilient, and
they kind of squat up.
And it's bigger. Yeah, orcas are very strategic.
Yeah, they're smart. They're kind of dolphin smart. Yeah. Wow. Well, the more you know, huh? All right.
They're tough. They're tough, dude.
Don't watch that movie, by the way. If you're a huge fan, I love a documentary, I feel like I've said a million times, but ooh, that one is tough for an animal lover or just for orcas in general. So, but it is good, like knowledge as a documentary. Yeah. All right, let's get into our topic. So we're here to talk about transformation, and you guys definitely have amazing journeys and amazing stories. So every transformation starts at the beginning, right? So I want to hear, and you guys can choose who wants to go first. I'll go last, but I want to hear a little bit of who you were at the beginning of the transformation. So who were you before? How did you act? How old were you? How'd you talk? And you could just obviously give a rough estimate. Kind of like what'd you do for work, what your hobbies were, social life, what was your mindset like, just to kind of give an idea of who you were as that person. Because obviously you start somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, mine started, I was working at Dell.
Okay.
Good old Dell.
Here in Austin?
No, I was in Nebraska.
Okay.
I had bought my first home. So I had a home. I was dating someone, and I was like really into volleyball. We were playing volleyball like 4 nights a week at the time. Super competitive league, not super competitive. It was a competitive league, but we were always playing, like I was super competitive. And I was in this relationship with someone, not Madison. I was in this relationship with someone, and we just were in it way longer than we should have been, you know?
Always, right?
Yeah. And we both knew it. But we were living together. It was a whole thing. Our lives were
She moved in your house?
Yeah. Our lives were so intertwined with the friends, the family, the job. We worked at the same company. We played volleyball on all the teams together. You know, so we were just.
Well, you know what they say about lesbians? You'll get in quick.
You hold it. No. Yeah. So that relationship, I kind of lost myself. And you ever have like an out of body experience where you're just kind of floating, just like looking at your life from the outside? And I just caught myself like, where did I go? Like
that's
what?
actually called astral plane thing. It's like where you're people actually, by the way, into this, because you know how I'm like Mr. Holy Manifestation, whatever. People, you can get into that meditation and actually do that often if you wanted to. Yes. Anyways, it's like astro something.
It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary to be.
I've only done it once, but go ahead.
Okay, so I was in it not on purpose. I didn't want to be, but I'm just looking at myself like, where did you go? Like, what happened? I was like miserable but functioning. You know what I mean? And I'm a happy person, so I'm like, what happened? And I remember we finally broke up, which then caused a ruckus everywhere, obviously, because like everything was so intertwined. And I just found myself so miserable and like sad and just floating. And there was a moment I remember, I was in my room by myself, you know, because they moved out. I was in my room, and I remember like getting on my knees next to my bed. I look at
Don't get Mike going.
I got on my knees and I literally said, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I don't know how I got here.
Yeah.
Just bring me back. Like whatever
like
that
you
path
surrender.
is.
You surrender.
Yes, like fully 100%. Never done that. I've been baptized and it was just like a process, right?
Right.
This one was like a full commitment. Like just bring me back and I'll be better, you know? And like after that moment, I found myself again. I was happy again. And I was like, I will never allow myself to get in that spot and to like give myself up to someone that they didn't even want me to do that. I just did it. You know, I just like erased my being and everyone around me knew it. They could see it. They could feel it, you know?
Wow.
And then I finally came back and I was like, dude, I will never allow myself to lose me again. And I just praise joy like that. You know, obviously that's like one of my main passions is joy and helping others find joy. But that was the pivotal moment for me when I went through that. And then ever since then it was, like once I met Madison, it was like, okay, I'm going to love you, but I'm still going to love me, and I'm still going to do me, you do you, and we'll, coexist together. But I'm not giving my full being to something ever again. Even a job. I've done it for I was married to Dell for a while, like,
Oh, I believe that.
Once you just lose yourself and it just takes over. I will never do that again. So that's to me was my main transformation. And from there
and you know what, real quick, what's crazy that I'll say even for all of us here is I would probably, and for the listeners that are, wondering, oh, is that me? That's not me. How do I get there? So on and so forth. These three people, I think we would all say that we, like in a social setting, have the energy, are the energy, and create the energy. And you would never think that people that are so outgoing and doing all these things and happy, joy and smiling and all that were in a place like that. Like how can someone like that be that way? And then, deal with that and see the other side and transform. It just goes to show you, you never know what's going on behind, someone's, lenses in a sense.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just powerful to note, because it's easy to see someone like, oh my gosh, it's Trina. Yeah. She's volleyball. She owns a house. She has, but it's just, so.
Yeah, for sure. And nothing against, like, I honestly don't have anything against any of my exes. Like they taught me things, and I am where I am now because I went through something with them. Right. It's just, I just see it as like that moment in time. Like that's just where I was supposed to be, and I always feel like you learn something or gain something from that. And that was just more of an experience of like, this is what it's like when you choose to not live for you,
Yeah.
And so, okay, I learned my lesson there and moving on. And it was a massive like mindset shift, paradigm shift, like everything changed, because I had to, like you're quitting everything. Like I'm quitting the family that she had. I'm quitting the friend groups.
When you let her go,
the teams, like, I mean, you're losing everything, and you don't know what that future.
We'll get into that in a bit too, because I want to touch on that. I think the other thing that I am realizing that I think probably will connect with everyone, and again, my weird higher talk is like it's divine time, and we all have to go. Life is when you're dead, literally medically, you're flatlining. There's no ups, there's no downs. You're flatlined. You're dead. And I've come to the realization that being the doer that I am, that Mr. Checklist, Mr. Get It Done, Mr. House, Car, Married, this, is like, what are you rushing for? Why are you rushing to the end of the what's it called? The line, like running to win. And I'm just like, it's all a part of the ride. So once you understand that, and then you get to the place where you surrender and level up in a sense of whatever you're trying to achieve, that is part of it, All right, Mike, so let's hear from you. Every transformation starts with the starting point in the beginning. Take us back to the Mike that was, how'd you talk, how'd you walk, how'd you act, hobbies, work, social life, your mindset, like what year and where were you at?
Yes, and this kind of gets broken down into a few parts, but I definitely want to preface with something going off of Trina is, right, for anybody looking to transform, that situation that Trina was in, I'm incredibly lucky. I never really had ex-girlfriends. Like I was never really, because I met my wife when I was 20. Not to say I hadn't, had relationships with other women prior to meeting my wife, but I was never in any sort of like long-term committed anything like that, because when I had graduated high school, 2008, I joined the Marines. And so like any of the girls I kind of like dated in high school, like that's high school crap.
Right.
I was moved on. I was in North Carolina. So like, I never had like my wife.
The push and pull with the drama of the relationship and stuff.
Yeah.
Got
so
it.
I'm really lucky.
And you went into structure.
Yeah. I went into that. And so, and I want to say this before I start the transformation story, because what is great because my wife is my number one. She is without a doubt, like I I am not where I am now without her support, because she not just married me, she married the guy I was going to become, and she knew that. And I got to give her the most amount of credit, like knowing full well that I was, give the praise,
Love that.
that like anybody, because anybody's a work in progress, like knowing that I'm imperfect and that I'm going to keep learning and going, because that's the thing. So there's kind of three parts to this this transformation. There's part one is 2012, getting out of the Marines,
Okay.
which is a decision I still toss around in my head, because by all means, I'd be on the doorsteps of retirement from the military at this point. Like I would have, I'm 35, retirement, 20 years, 38 years old,
Wow.
so sometime between there. So, and I have friends who are eyeing retirement. I've had conversations with friends who have been like, man, the RD community could have used you. And I look at some of the accomplishments I've had in the past 5 years, and I'm like, wow, I really could have continued to excel on that. But I don't want to dwell on that too much. I've kind of already come to terms with that, and I don't want to cut this nice hair. The listeners can't see it. I got a great head of hair that I'm rolling.
Nice
with
mullet. I love it. I honestly love it.
for a while. So in 2012, I get out and I start my undergraduate career. And so when it comes to this, so in the Marine Corps is work hard, play hard. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I deployed, I went on a combat tour to Afghanistan. Like we did some hard stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, but when we were home, I mean, my wife's come down to Wilmington with us, and we've raged 3-day benders, like we've had fun. Like there's definitely a lifestyle to the Marines. Like we definitely had a good time. Getting out of the Marines, going to college, I continued that exact same lifestyle, so to speak.
Okay.
But the thing is, I kind of delayed a lot of the mental health struggles that I eventually went through, because going to college, there's a huge void. I think the transition of going from the military into the civilian world it's a transition like no other, because truthfully speaking, I joined the Marines for a reason. It was to not go to college. And part of the reason, do I love America and all that stuff? Yeah, sure. But the truth is, I was trying to do anything to not go to college, because I didn't want to write 10-page papers. And I thought the idea, I didn't feel like that's what I was supposed to do, was go to more school. That's what everybody else was doing.
Right.
And, the uniform stuck out to me. And that's the thing. When you're a Marine, you're the top, you're the tip of the spear. You're all these nicknames. You're broken down and built back up into a Marine. And then when you're all of a sudden not, I mean, it's like, it's a hard pivot. It's not a 180, but it's a hard pivot in this other direction, where now you have to just be a normal guy. So, I mean, there's kind of ego that comes into play. There's a lot of things that are in front of you of, now you're back with this civilian population, and you're all just supposed to be with them. So going to college, I set up some Band-Aids. I joined the club lacrosse team. I had joined one of the fraternities at school, and those organizations were great, because they kept me, they kept me on a path to where but I say it delayed what I was doing, because it was delaying me confronting this identity crisis that I was having. And I would feel it too, but having the common goal of the lacrosse team, our fraternity did a lot of fundraisers.
Right. It kept you in line with that.
It kept me like dialed in on something where at least there was a focus, there was a goal, there was people who revered me for.
You
my
were buying
military
more
service.
time for that version of yourself that you knew wasn't really you.
Exactly. I'm glad I'm here having this conversation, because you summed it up great in that aspect. and then that's the thing. In 2016, so in college, I went up in weight from the Marines a little bit, but lacrosse kind of kept it at a normal area, but I was still smoking cigarettes, drinking the same way I would drink when I was 21, 22, and then graduate in 2016. And in 2016, I go on this cross-country road trip. I meet up with a bunch of guys from my unit. I see how they're doing. And then, I get my first job. It's a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. It's a sales job. Mm-hmm. And like that right there, it was, okay at first. But again, I'm trying to still I'm trying to cling on to this lifestyle of the Marines, of college, because of like still having no clue what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. That's like when I was 18, didn't know what I wanted to do. 22, got in the Marines, had no clue what I wanted to do. 2016, I had a business degree in sports management, still had no clue like what it is I wanted to do, what I was passionate about, had nothing. But my friend had worked at Enterprise. He helped me get out the job. And I remember, and I tried a few times to make some changes within my health and fitness. But I mean, and I even remember, and I've never said this on a podcast before, but, and one of my groomsmen, Aaron Hall, who Trina's met, we were in Maine, and I remember like we had been drinking all day, and me and him were on a balcony, and I was like in tears, being like, this must be it. Like this must be where I'm going. Like, I don't know any sort of upward trajectory. Like, I'm lost. Like, I'm unhappy with the job. The job blows.
Yeah.
I'm not, I used to be in the Marines. I used to be in shape. I look at old pictures. I'm like, my best days must be behind. Like, the idea of owning a house, are Trina and I ever going to have kids, blah, blah, blah. Like
now, were you feeling any other outside pressures from family, friends, other than your own internal ego and timeline that you create inside your head of like you were just rattling off? Was there anything else though? Like putting that a pressure, like a sibling or like a parents, or trying to form into this version for someone else?
I think that's the most important part, because there wasn't. Like, my parents fully supported me and are proud of me every day. Drea, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, supported me every day.
Wow.
And knew, like, because you zoom out 30,000 feet, you look down, everything's copacetic. Like, if you zoomed out, you'd be like, you work full time, you pay your bills on time, you have a healthy relationship. Like the only thing that stinks is that internally I was hurting, because I wasn't who I was, and I wasn't becoming anything. All I was doing was getting more out of shape, unhealthier, more overweight, adding weight. And that continued all the way up until 2018. And so part one is definitely 2012 to 2016 of the Band-Aid. Part two, 2016 to 2018. And then that's when the transformation started. What happened was in 2018, the fall, end of the year. This is why it's important when it comes to like New Year's Day, New Year's, thinking like having to wait. This is fall. And I had just lost a very good friend of mine. He went to Afghanistan with him. His name's Matt Brown. And he passed away suddenly. And, I don't want to use words that I don't understand, but as far as I could read the situation, it was an accident. But I know that he did struggle with alcohol a little bit. And he was also, I believe he was prescribed medicine for sleep.
Got it.
I don't think he did anything intentionally. Right. Like, there was nothing intentional.
Exactly.
He had probably done it before. He had probably like had the medicine while having a couple of drinks. But again, that comes with risks. Mm-hmm. So, and as far as I knew from other friends I've talked to, another good friend of mine who had gone to the funeral and talked about it, it was likely an accident. However, if he was not drinking around that medicine, he'd still be here. So it's definitely an accident. Right. But that was like, hearing that was a way. Me and Matt had, a lot in common. And the thing is with Matt, he himself is like bodybuilder type, Alabama guy,
jacked,
corn fed, meat machine, however you want to describe it. And so, but when I heard that and knowing, and I never really had a struggle with alcohol. I was never violent. I don't have any DUIs. There's, I've never wet the bed a few times. So that's, a lot of people peed their pants on that. But I didn't have a problem. But on a long enough timeline, like when it comes to how you use alcohol, how you're
it all stacks up,
playing around with other stuff. Again, on a long enough timeline, things can transcribe that you might not know. You might say, "Oh no, I'll never." Like, you may never know. And so that's struck me. And I had recently been engaged, and I'd been. The thing is, we got engaged summer of 2018. And here I was thinking, oh, we've got a wedding in less than a year. I was still kicking the can. I was like, oh, internally, just like, I'm not going to do this. But losing Matt was like this, I remember looking
a little bit of a pivotal moment.
It was just like this insane wake up call. I remember looking in the mirror, seeing how big my cheeks were, and looking at before and after photos. I've
seen them.
Well, just the before pictures, just like I was looking at me now and then me in the Marines. And then I look at the scale's reading 278, and I was like, oh my God, I got to do something. And from there, that was I wouldn't call, I didn't drop to my knees or anything, but that was like, there was just this pit in me where I was like, that's it. And the transformation, it was a long game. You see it on TV. Oh, I did this in 30 days, 6 months, whatever it was. I started a transformation by putting exercise in my regular routine. I had a really good coach. A couple months later, he started talking to me more about diet. What are you eating? And then it kind of went on from there. And then part 3 really happens in 2020. For the sake of time, I'm trying to speed it along.
No, you're good.
But I definitely need to emphasize where I was definitely in a feeling, and I think that comes from being in the Marines, because in the Marines you always have a mission, you always have a goal, you're aligned, and it's a team goal. And then to all of a sudden now you're not being given that mission, and there's no direction, and now you've got to find this purpose. Yeah, it struck my brain.
I can only imagine that so many people in all those service, like Air Force, Army. I know they have that. What's it called? They call it like when you're in war and then you are having like trauma from it, clearly dying and people getting shot up. But even just transitioning from being in the services to a civilian has to be hard. And I'm sure everyone's multiple people have experienced that, but there has to be something for that and for them to help that, because it's, they just think, oh, well, you got it. Okay, now go to college and now you have money and now you can do these things and thank you and veteran discounts and so on and so forth. But it's a mental game forever. And that people, and especially men, let's be clear, men that don't even know, like, and again, what age did you go into? These kids are going in at,
I was 18.
Like, you're 18 years old, and then you're coming out on the other side almost like, in your 20, mid to late 20s, even obviously, a lot of men further than that. And it's just like your reality of what you've been doing and loaded on a day-to-day basis with these other guys, and having these, taking charge and taking these missions and living this routine, to come out here and say, okay, the day is yours, the week is yours, the month is yours, what are you going to do with it and integrate? So I don't know much about that, but I hope that there is support in that bubble there, because I could see they're needing some definitely support there.
I'd say as the years have gone on, it's been getting better in that aspect. I think very, very early, like from 2012 to at least 2020. Because here's the thing, when it comes to, like, to me, community is everything, because community has been a huge part about the transformation going into part 3, which is like the move to Texas and getting into the trucking industry. And community is huge, but the veteran community for the longest time, at least since Vietnam, has been circumvented around, like, when you think of veterans, you think about the VFW, the American Legion. So it's been this almost type of trauma bonding circumvented around alcohol, where that's where you can kind of find a sense of, glory days, so to speak. And that's what it's been, which is not healthy.
No,
in my opinion.
At all. They're at the bar, the corner of the bar, they got the hats on, and they're just exactly what you're saying, trauma bonding. But there needs to be a healthier component to that,
Yeah, something a lot bigger. And there's guys out there, a guy in Austin, Matt Johnson, who's working with other nonprofits, Valor Fit. I'd say that there's definitely more and more, as more OIF, Enduring Freedom, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans have gotten older and are kind of going through similar experiences that I have, like refining their purpose. I think they're the ones who are now founding these senses of community to help fix it.
Okay. Well, so you got us to part
3.
Yeah. So let's have you tell your story on that, and basically like the turning point. Mm-hmm. What was the turning point? And then I'll have you Trina, go into yours. But yeah, so what was it, turning point, that made you realize, you said how you needed to change, what the moment was, your friend passing. So that was the indication and incident. And, I guess who influenced you? You're now engaged, so your soon-to-be wife, significant other. Tell me about, like, the things that you started picking up on to say, hey, this is what I'm focusing on to move that needle. So podcasts, books, movies, shows. What was that?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely starts with the coach and the owner of Savin Rock CrossFit in Connecticut. He's the same age as me, and kind of being under his wing and learning from him and hearing him talk, how he carried himself, eventually got me to the point to where I was offered a promotion at my job in 2019, 5 weeks before my wedding. Long story short, turned it down, negotiated salary, either way. From there, I knew I needed to make a career change. I had called myself Lombard Trucking on the internet since 2010, since I made a Twitter account. My family, long story short, my family has a legacy in trucking from most of the 20th century. My grandfather was an owner of this company. I grew up with this guy.
Wow.
Looked at him and truck drivers as heroes. And, my wife and I mutually agreed we're going to, she was ready to move. She wanted a new beginning. So we're going to do it. We're going to make this pivot. I'm going to get my CDL. We're going to move someplace brand new, come to Austin and figure it out. So moved to Austin, get my CDL.
Was there any particular reason Austin?
She had been here once and really liked it.
That was it.
That was
That's
literally.
all it
Wow.
takes. That's literally all it
Is
takes.
that your story?
Pretty much.
That's my story too.
Mhm.
Wow. Serious. That's crazy, but go. Yeah.
But yeah, so other people, getting my CDL right there. But all along the while, since 2018, I had been building habits steadily over time. Started with movement, and then I started with food. And then when COVID happened in 2020, in February of 2020, I had a really bad hangover, and I was like, I'm going to take 30 days off. And then COVID happened. I was like, well, all the bars are closed, so I'm just going to keep going. So that was like the first stint where I really took a good break. So I started to just naturally change my habits over time because I had seen myself getting stronger, see myself lose weight for my wedding.
Okay.
So because I started seeing these results from these just regular things, it starts with one thing. It was didn't doing everything at once.
It's like 1% helps if you do 1% each day, you'll look in the mirror and all of a sudden you're there.
You get there. And so going over the road from trucking. So I'd say the biggest influence in part 3 was when I was in CDL school and going over the road was David Goggins' first book, Can't Hurt Me. And that book it's the no excuses manual. I mean, this is a guy, he had a rough upbringing. This is a, African-American guy who grew up, outside of Buffalo, dad abusive, abused the mother and stuff. The mother had to take him, run away to Indiana. He couldn't read. When he was in high school, he was reading at like a middle school level. I mean, he had this, tough go around, and he had this
kind of everything up against him. And probably someone who could run it. I always say run a CVS receipt long of why they couldn't or can't.
Oh, everything.
Right?
Everything in the book. And he had this monumental transfer. And similarly, he spent time in the Air Force, got out, and then he got incredibly out of shape. And then he got back in the military. He had to lose like a monumental amount of weight in like 3 or 4 months. And so it's just reading that story. And then there's just all these other little testimonies along the way. So when I read that book, it was, I not only just need to be healthy, like the book convinced me you should be an outlier. It's like you should be an outlier in this industry. You should go to your limit. Go to your absolute limit, your absolute breaking point, and how you can go fitness-wise, health and fitness-wise. And so kind of reading that book and kind of hearing podcasts he was on and just having conversation, it got me to start my own podcast.
Yeah.
So starting my own show, which is why I give you props on, 10 episodes, because it's a grind and do it. But the podcast led me to have so many more conversations with different people. And then all of a sudden, 3 years into trucking, I was over the road for 3 years. I run 5 marathons in that time.
Wow.
And which is just had to do with piecing my time together. But along the way, again, there was no 180 that happened. It was this kind of almost like a graph that zigzags up and up, this up and down that kept going up. And it was just steadily over time. I did that. But what's the wild part about the transformation is that the healthier I got, the more I locked into myself, the more I wanted to give back. So the more time I was taking for me, the more time I was investing in me. Like, I'm going to read these books. I'm going to take on this. I'm going to have these conversations, related to the stuff in the trucking industry, parking, pay, the labor issues, that, learning about my own family's company. The more I had these conversations, the more and more I wanted to give and give. And so the healthier I got, the more I wanted to get involved.
Give in what way?
Given in the way of getting involved in, so in the trucking industry, that's why I joined, there's the Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association, OIDA. So getting involved in that organization, getting involved in the advocacy side. And then in the health side too, with I want to help some drivers get healthy, because I was in the 2017, 2018, I was in the down deep, very down deep, living for the weekend, couldn't wait till Friday, believing there was an inherent belief in me that my best days were behind me. This is how I'm going to have to ride. I guess this is my future. I'm going to work in this warehouse, because that's the thing. So I left Enterprise Rent a Car in 2017, left that out, started working in a warehouse in 2017, which got me actually involved with dealing with drivers on a regular basis. But it's I'm going to work in this warehouse lifestyle. This is it. It's just going to be at a certain point, and then maybe eventually my wife will get pregnant, and then we'll go that route, and then we're just going to be here.
You were just letting life kind of take its the steering wheel and control you.
Bingo.
You didn't believe or even have, honestly, the knowledge to put together that this is your life. You actually make the choices, and you grab the damn bull by the horns and decide how you want to live it, you know?
And the first time that happened was turning. So if Matt Brown doesn't pass away, and it hurts to hear this, but I think eventually I would have changed. Eventually something would have taken over. I know something would have.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in that.
Like
there's no way.
There's no way it wouldn't have happened at a certain point.
Because remember, you've already heard you're always destined for greatness. It's just once you remove yourself, your ego, and get out of your own way, we all have the path to be there. It's just what's that moment? You know, I always say, for me, I noticed, and more recently, is that when the universe is just rubbing you the wrong way with everything, with work, with this, or whatever particular, obviously, is for me, it was like work, have a happy home, have a happy husband, have a happy marriage. But every time I went to this particular thing, it was just like, you know, hitting my head against the wall. And I realized way back in my previous job that my time was up. My time was up. It is now time to either it's going to pluck you out of the situation to where you have no control, or you figure that out and then you make those moves and allow to move, you know, let go and let flow. And then you're moving on to the next thing. So
exactly. And but I got healthier in 2018, or I made those moves. 9 months later, I'm offered that promotion. I turn it down. That was the first semblance of like taking back control. Like that was the first thing that was the turning down a promotion, which it just didn't work out too. And it wasn't worth the money. It wouldn't have worked. They wanted me to move 5 weeks before my wedding. That was the first time I had taken control of really anything where I did something for me. Cause beforehand, like the reason I played lacrosse, the reason I joined the fraternity had everything to do with getting that Band-Aid, doing it. But I took the job at Enterprise because a friend got it for me. I got the job at the warehouse because a friend lured me into it. I didn't go out and seek these things. I didn't choose them. They kind of just had floated my way out of good fortune. But turning down that job was the first thing I did. And then it's putting a stake in saying that, like, I'm going to get my CDL. So I wanted to do that. Nobody recommended to me. My parents, thought I could always do a little bit better. My brother wanted to, he talked me out of it. He's like, you're getting healthier now. You're going to get, you're going to be in the worst shape of your life if you get into this. So it's not like anybody did it. So turning down the promotion and then getting my CDL were the two things where at that point, so I grabbed one horn, getting my CDL was the other. And that's when I actually took full control and I had autonomy back.
And that's what I always say too. I always say this, often, and to myself and to anybody that I meet, is that everything you want is on the other side of fear. Once you move that and you just, again, you grab that left horn, right horn, and you just looked it dead in the eyes and saying, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm, feeling good about. And that's where I'm at with my transition. Is I'm a grinder. I am. I'm up early. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I got a million businesses. I'm figuring it out. I'm all over the place with that stuff. Organized, but all over the place. But what I realized is that, and I watched something more recently, is you need to be in a space of less, like grind less and align more. Mm-hmm. Once you're in that alignment, and I'll speak to that on my part, but that is what you decided to do, and you had nothing really up against you other than yourself, which there's a lot of other key factors that many other people have, and struggle with. But that was all, I would say, you just walking blind. And now you just decided to say, you know what, I'm seeing it. I see myself. I see how this is impacting me, and I'm not happy with it. So let me, take ownership and move forward with that. Real quick before we move on to Trina, I just want to, since we're on your journey, obviously your wife was a huge component of that. What hurdles did you face along the way in your transition? Anything specifically, any particular hard parts? Did you ever feel like giving up? Were there any weak spots just to be reality to it? Or you just kind of like were super headstrong at that point because you've already sacrificed majority of your life in those years? Does that make sense?
Yeah, what's been coming off the road. So when I come off from being over the road, which had, that's a whole other story. We don't need to go into that. Hemorrhaging money a little bit. I was offered other. That's the thing. Like getting my CDL opened more doors than going to college ever did. That, and that's just wild. So it's like I came off the road not in defeat, but it's because it opened doors for me in so many different ways. But I'd say some of the biggest roadblocks is, and I'm sure you've probably talked about this before, but there's always. When it comes to me, there's a Mike Lombard that exists, and some of my friends from college, I exist in their mind as a completely different person. Like I exist I exist to them as what. So when they think of me, they think of 2015, 2016. Like they think of the guy who is because by all sense of means, I was. You could describe me as the sad clown. Outside, I was a jovial person. First at the party, last to leave, like, and, cranking back 30 racks, like, look forward to every holiday and stuff to get the group
and
together.
That's who you were. That was your identity.
That's what it was. And so,
and here's the thing, but no, here's the thing about that. Look out, the way they perceived you identity wise is what you were accepting. Subconsciously, you're like, this is who I am. This is who I need to be. I want to be this Mike for these people because you cared. These were the people you grew up with, hung out with, the boys in the Marines, etc. And taking that step outside of that, a lot of, handful of people and going through a transition for many people in certain aspects, you lose some things, right? Family along the way, friends along the way. Hey, you don't drink anymore. All that sort of stuff, and their expectation of you and how they want you to show up for them in a selfish way puts a little bit of a wall in between you, And so when you decide to start showing up for yourself, the version that you want to be versus the version that they expect of you, that changes everything.
It definitely that was a hard part right there, is like having those conversations with people. But what was great was I didn't have to confront that always, because my job was me being over the road. So it was great. And then, the other difficult things that were in my way, which is why I emphasize how important David Goggins' book is, was the job, the lifestyle of a truck driver itself, which is a very hard job. A good week, you're driving 3,000 miles a week. For anybody who doesn't know, you're able to drive 11 hours in a 14-hour window. There's days where I was in Minnesota at 0 degrees, Laredo for triple digits, and to get out and not only, a lot of times go for runs, or just getting out to go for that walk. So there's weather that plays a factor. There's so many,
a ton of excuses. Why not?
Every excuse is lined up in front of you, because everything you need to do is everything's on the minute. So the lifestyle itself, the environment of the trucking industry is not. It's not a supportive one for trying to, operate at this high level of being a marathon runner.
Yeah, it's all against you.
It's all working against you. So you got to find a way to fight against it. But at a certain point, I got so addicted to that lifestyle and how I was living. I felt as though like it eventually fuels your ego, because you're like, wow, I'm the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
And when you start seeing yourself as the 1% of the one, I'm not saying people need to be more narcissistic or anything. I'm not saying that. But when you start seeing yourself as, I am the outlier, I am doing, this is possible. Like, this is possible. And you start seeing yourself like that. What used to be hard 2-3 years ago, what used to be hard, because I look at my schedule now. When I was in 2018, like I don't want to, it's not like I didn't work hard at my job, but it was it. I was there from this hour to this hour. After that,
you clocked in, you clocked out, and yes.
Done. There was nothing else I wanted to do.
Yep.
The idea of having a second job was tough, like going above and beyond, getting involved in, advocacy organizations and doing this and having
Community.
a podcast, making content, being in the community, doing all that. Absolutely.
You're like,
not.
What time with what energy?
Yeah.
Yeah. With
Yeah. How is that possible?
How would that be possible?
Yeah.
So definitely those out, like struggling with people realizing that I'm not the same guy I used to be, even though I still am by all sense of, like, we're still going to talk about, like, there's no different. The difference is I probably sound a little bit happier. I'm probably going to motivate you a little bit more. Like, that's the thing. Like, now how I talk to people, like I talk to people like how I coach, like, hey, what are you working on? What are your goals? Like, this is what I'm doing. Like, how can I help you win? Like, what are you doing? What can I help you out with wherever I can? And that's how I'll talk to like any of my old friends. Like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, you're in this. Like, that's how I talk. I wouldn't talk that way,
Right.
Years ago.
But also more important is that you're gonna live a lot longer for yourself. You're happier. You're gonna live a lot longer. You're the best version for yourself, which automatically means that you're gonna be the best version for your wife and your family and any friends that decide to stick around to experience that. So think about that. Like, obviously, yes, you're giving back and thinking about others, but think about what you did for yourself, through that transformation, which I think is more important. Tell me what you learned about the process. Is there one thing that you wish, like if you had to put it down to a granular something, is there one thing that you wish you would have done sooner? If you could have chose one thing through that journey. And we'll pass the
but yeah, besides starting sooner, besides actually starting to move my body sooner, or like, eating less garbage and drinking less garbage, I'd say personally, I wish I got my CDL sooner.
Wow.
Like that's where a lot of purpose came in. I was fulfilling a legacy. Like my family's last name carries merit back in Waterbury. Like there's still a strip mall that it's called Lombard Plaza. Like there's something special about what Lombard trucking was back in the 20th century. And so I felt like I was fulfilling something. Like I was joining something that was almost meant for me in the first place. And I just felt that, and that can sound like a little corny to people, but I mean, that's part of what built the United States, small family businesses. That's what kind of made stuff go, like generational businesses that have carried on in so many different ways. I've met so many people too in the industry who have, trucking companies or whatever that are generational. So I felt like getting my CDL sooner, I would have felt like I was fulfilling something. And like my stake in the industry now, I feel like I'm like because my family should still have a stake in this industry and they don't, but that's another story. We don't need to talk about deregulation, all that other trucking stuff. But like I feel like I'm here because I'm here how we should have been the whole time. So there's a purpose in that. So it's like getting involved in the industry sooner. Yeah. Like through trucking.
And what I was going to say is that I pulled up on my phone and I saved this particularly and I forgot where I heard this from, but obviously iPhone notes, I forget. We talked about memory and forgetting. But I think what the key to everyone is like, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? So on and so forth. And I wrote down where they said what your purpose is find what your greatest passion is and apply it to the greatest need around you. If once you connect those, then that's your ideally could potentially be a purpose for you. And the funny, not the funny story, but I feel like another major point in this and hearing, what you have, your transition next is again, the alignment, because at the end of the day, as human beings, I don't care what color, walk of life, religion, etc., sex, what you're into, is that we all want to feel connected and we deep down want to feel like we're doing something not only to better ourselves and our family and etc., but also carrying a bigger purpose for other people and something that will carry on beyond that, and we live in these jobs, we all work these jobs, which are clearly important and are necessary. But again, once you find how to get closer to that as quick as you can, then you'll be locked in, and then locked into alignment and then locked into abundance, only, personally and community wise, and then financially, because it's easy. You're doing something that you enjoy. So you're not really working, so. Yeah. Well, awesome story, Mike. I appreciate that for sure. And I could just see, my head is just going all over all these places, thinking about that, but we'll get back to you in a bit. But Trina, kind of the same thing. So we heard about your, where you started and what was that, turning point for you. Well, you told me the turning point. Tell me about when you started putting things into play, so what, like, shows, podcasts, books, you left your girlfriend at the time, you surrendered, And then you decided to, do what? What were you taking on to move the needle,
Yeah. Yeah. First, I want to say on Mike, there was like a few things that
go for it.
you mentioned that I wanted to bring up. I remember you saying that I think it was someone in your family, and they were basically like, "Do not get into trucking because it's just so bad for you," and that still didn't deter you because I really think that your why was just like so locked in, and once you have that why and that passion, that desire, it's like there's nothing that's going to stop you. You're determined at that point. And so I think that was something that you were like, it doesn't really matter what you guys say to me. I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing, And so I think that's just really cool. And the other thing is he actually bought me that book, that Dave Goggins book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you finished
buddy.
and you read it and you.
I read most of it and then I ended up downloading the Audible.
Okay.
Because it was
I get you.
easier at the time.
Right.
But yeah, to his point, it was. I feel like that's what Mike is he lives that Dave Goggins lifestyle and he's just like locked in and just full speed ahead. And it's really awesome.
And I think a lot of people don't forget. And I think that I kind of I will say in any job that I had with lifeguard, my first job was a Publix bag boy. Shout out to Publix. I love Publix grocery stores.
Pub sub.
And literally any job that I had.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care what the fuck the job was. I knew with determination that I was going to be the best person in that job.
Yeah.
And that's how I would say, quote, climb the ladder and connected me to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So determination is a huge part of it,
it's so big. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So I'm trying to think of the next layer of this. Really, I think it was, I always wanted to leave Nebraska, right?
Okay.
And I think this is probably something like you probably both have experienced to where in your head you're a thing, but you're like, I just feel like there's more. I just don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in my head, I'm like, I need to get out of Nebraska. But I just never did. I just stayed. I went to another town in Nebraska, played college sports, but then I came right back to my hometown.
Okay.
But meeting Madison, she was on that same line, like, I want to get out of here. So together, we took a visit to Austin one time, locked in, went out, and we're like,
crazy.
This is it. We moved sight on scene to an apartment in Cedar Park. Didn't even know it was Cedar Park until we pulled in the parking lot. I'm like, wait, I thought we lived in Austin. What is this?
Right.
But so getting out of, like everything I knew, all my family was there. I was like that person with the connections, like you need a new car? I know a guy. You need, I don't know, something. I know someone. I got the connections, and it was like getting rid of that, like giving that up was.
Which I will say 95% of people that live across America, are still in that space. Yeah. And that's the hardest part. Mm-hmm. They can't see themselves outside of those connections.
Well, they can see it, but they can't see themselves actually taking that risk and taking the chance.
Right.
Yeah. So we moved here.
So congrats for you taking that step.
I know.
Seriously.
Thank you. We moved here, met people like you, like Mike, just people that like want to live like good, solid, happy, growthful lives. Growthful, is that a word?
It's a word for me.
Today,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
But just, like they're just people that are passionate here and
yes.
They want to be outside and they want to do all the things. They want to grow. And it just feels good to be here,
Completely agree.
And so for me, I remember two moments. One was I heard, well, maybe before that. I can't remember which one came first. Probably I heard a show. It's like a YouTube video, and it was what's his name? It's like drawing a blank right now.
Is there?
Robbins. What's his name? Tony Robbins. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude, Tony Robbins will get
you. Yeah, he'll get you stoked. I could run through a wall after listening to Tony Robbins.
Bad day to be a brick wall if he's coming
literally.
out.
So there was a video of his, and I didn't really know what he did. I didn't know. Okay. I just knew he was a guy,
right?
Public speaking type shit. And I stumbled upon this video. I don't know how. And it was like a 3-day seminar or something he was putting on. And there was like an 1.5-hour clip of him talking to some young girl. And she had a complaint about her like self look. Like she thought she was overweight, but she was like really skinny. And she just looked at herself a certain way. And then like an hour later, it's about her dad and the way that she was raised and like all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm watching, but it was so impactful that I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. Like, what is this? What did he just do? And how can I do this? You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that moment was like where I learned that there was a thing called coaching that didn't have to do with like a basketball coach or something like that. You know what I mean?
A mental.
Like, there's like people that coach you on like your brain and shit. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
And then the other moment was,
which honestly is kind of like I would say when you were going through this, it was new. It's new, you know.
I mean,
outside of a psychologist
for sure.
and a mental health negative thing, you know, like I'm not, you know, and again, not to anybody who is, but like, I'm not on medication. I'm not depressed. I'm not anything like that mentally, but I'm also like, I want to take my life to the next level. And, you know, and the biggest thing that I'll say to success in all of this and what you guys have experienced and is that it's so important because honestly, some people don't really understand it, but you will once you get past that part. Is you become the people you're surrounded by. Yeah, you know, like the drinking and the part. I mean, socially and doing all this and doing all that, and then once you know, if you like always said, you want to hang out with, when you want to be a millionaire, hang out with millionaires. Right. If you want to, so there's important. I think that ties into like finding someone that believes in you. And that shows you the way.
Sure.
Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Yes. That's another good one.
Yes, that's good. So I saw that, and then I dove head first into like coaching and his stuff and like trying to understand all that. But there was also another moment, which was with our boy Jay. We were walking around Lady Bird. Not when y'all were there, sorry.
That's okay.
We were walking around Lady Bird, and I was telling him how I wanted to create a productivity business. I didn't necessarily know what it was going to look like, but I was like, you know how someone has a personal trainer and they train them and they, you know, go through the meal prep and the workouts.
I've had a few trainers.
This is how you do a squat. Yep. We're going to make you this program and do the things. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to maybe wellness is their thing. So I'm like, okay, let's get you on Peloton. Let's download Peloton. Can you pay for this app? Cool. Let's get you on Peloton. I'll hold you accountable to you doing Peloton. That's the thing. Or, you know, some other goals, I'm going to give you the tools to do the thing and I'm going to coach you through it and be your support person and your accountability partner and all the things. You know, like that's where my brain was. And he was like, dude, that's fucking genius. Because he was like, I hire a personal trainer because I need that accountability, but I don't need them to teach me how to do the workout. Like just give me the program and I can do it. But I need someone to hold me accountable because I'm going to slack off. And I was like, what is that? Like, how do I make that business?
That's what my aunt literally just texted me a couple days ago asking for. How do you stay on track with your life? So
tell her to call me.
It's one of the number one questions people,
because people are we're working from home, working for hybrid, scrolling. What do I got to do? This, and this. And
the knowledge isn't the issue.
No.
Like the knowledge is out there. Like, you can find so many workout programs, so many meal plans. Whatever you need is out there. It's how do I make the time to do this consistently? I can do it for a week and then I fall off. Like, how do I do it consistently? Mm-hmm. And that's where the coaching stuff comes in play. But at the time, I'm like, productivity business, I don't know. And he's like, that's genius. So like, I literally did like a mind map on my iPad. Freeform, shout out, that's a good app. I did a mind map on my iPad of like, okay, I'm going to do this thing and productivity. I'm going to use these tools and then I'm going to build this community over here. And then I'm going to do this thing and we're going to do like events in Austin and like plan this whole thing out.
Yeah.
But I still had no idea what the hell it was. Yeah. And then somehow, I don't know what it was, but it was like a Rob Dial post that it was about like becoming like a coach, but like a life coach, but there's other coaches. And then I got into this whole, now it's like in my algorithm, like all the time. But I got into this whole world of coaching. Like there's coaches for everything. You have fertility issues, there's a coach for that.
Yep.
Whatever your issues are, there's a coach for that. And then I was thinking like, well, you can't be a life coach technically because like there's psychologists out there and they really are going to be the ones that are going to help somebody. But it's like completely different support systems that they offer than an actual coach, you know?
Yeah.
So then I got into that and then I got certified. I was like, I'm going to take a course. I got certified as a life coach and then I joined the advanced course. I joined a coaching community and I just like you guys said, like I just dove into that world. And now I'm seeing what all these other coaches are doing and how they're doing and whatever. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to be a fucking coach. Like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that like whole thing transpired into me doing productivity, but also doing coaching at the same time without having to like, be a certified personal trainer.
Right.
Go have
Combined
the same
it. Yeah.
for sure.
What you're doing too, it's new to our demographic. Our class, like if we're talking about, I'd say it's new to the working class. I'll describe all this as that. Whereas the people at the very top, like, because when you think about it, like Tony Robbins is one of the OGs who I think was really speaking to like normies like us.
Mm-hmm.
But people at the very top, Fortune 500, they've all been working with like advisors, certain people like who are very good at like, here's exactly how you're going to move your money around. Here's exactly how you're going to do it. Like, look, do you want to step into this CEO role? They've had those coaches, and they've kind of been doing that for
resources.
A while. But now this has been one of the benefits of social media and influence is people like you who have a strong testimony, a strong transformation, successful in their career, has had obstacles and gone through it. You have a game plan that can take somebody who can, because that's the thing. If you were, CEO billionaire who like kind of always had it, or it was in your family business like that, there's nothing. Like, I don't have anything in common with somebody at those levels, like at those higher levels. You have something in common with the people you're working with, as in either your background or everything like that.
To make that impact.
Yeah, to where it actually works.
Yeah. What did we say we had dinner before this, and what did we say at the dinner with the being in the same, when you're hiring the same people that did the work?
Yeah.
It's similar to that. I keep telling everyone, especially at work, that buy-in matters. People with all the politics and everything, and we're being burned and we're being scammed literally every minute on the phone or emails or whatever. It's just like we're numb to somewhat of authenticity at this point, and really understanding what's real and what's not real. And so, you having your story, your transformation, now your outreach, because again, you connected purpose to what you enjoy and do, and it's going to impact others
Yeah, no, that's really powerful you say that, because like, when you think about where we are now, like, okay, back in my day growing up, right? You're in school, whatever the teacher's teaching you, that's facts.
Yep.
That's just, you believe it.
Yep.
It's in that book. That book is not a lie. That book is true. And now it's like, you can't believe what's in the books. You can't believe what's on the news. You can't believe what your parents are telling you. You can't believe anything. Like, everyone is living on the defensive edge of, I need to fact check this. I need to fact check this. Like, I'm not going to believe anyone anymore because
everything's also been diluted and rushed to the
and
media.
Coffee's bad for you and gives you cancer, but coffee's great for you, and antibiotics, it's just like all the
creamers.
All the things. It's just like, I don't know what to trust out there. I don't know who to trust. I don't know. The information is so skewed now, and it's just, I don't know. I just think it's causing people to kind of go crazy. And Mike, you said this to me. I don't remember when, but you were basically saying like, the way that it feels when you go on like a 10-mile run, or when you're doing Ironman, or something like that, and you're just locked in, and
runner's high.
You're just living, and you're just being, and you're present, and you're just like, there's just no other feeling. And if people could get into this mental state, they would stop focusing on all the noise and the stupid things going on in the world, because that's what people, you get on. It's so hard to do. Obviously, you go to. You get on Facebook and you're like, I'm just going to go and click this thing. And you get there and you get sucked into something and some other thing. And then you're like, dude, I got to read the comments. I know people are going to freak out. And then you got to read the comments, and you're just seeing people freak out. And you're like, how did I even get here? Like, it's so easy to get locked in on the drama of nothings, right? Like, you get sucked in on all the social media and the reality shows, and
But I think that's to your point, is that we currently live in a space where you have to make a choice to either go down these easy to grab you in rabbit holes, or just say, I'm not doing it. I think we've all, I think I stopped drinking in February, which is huge for me. By the way, I've never did a week, or since sophomore year in high school, never gave no break. Mm-hmm. And I'm on, I don't even know how many months it's been. I don't even look back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Jason, I know you guys as well. So
just hit over a year, and the longest I went was 7 months in Afghanistan. But yeah, and it was a year back on March 22nd or something.
Nice,
Doesn't even feel like it.
Yeah. I think I say that to say that that's a part of that runner's high that you don't even know, like time doesn't even become a thing because you're just going fast and going furious and you're not even stopping to deal with the bullshit, you know? So
yeah, you're just locked in. That's another thing I want to sidebar really quick. That Mike showed me was, which everyone does. Like a lot of people do this, but I, in my head, didn't.
What?
But Mike would come over sober or go to a bar sober, and he would just grab like a sparkling water and just drink that. And in my head, I'm like, that is just so weird that you're doing that, you know? But now it's like, I like love a sparkling water because, you know, like at night you have a rough night or something, you're like, I should probably have a drink because it's not water and it tastes good. I don't really need the feeling. I just want something fun in my mouth. And that's where the sparkling water comes in. But I remember one time, Mike, you came over and you had a sparkling water and then you're like, can I have another one? And in my head, I'm like, dude, these are like $2 a drink. Like, why are you drinking so many sparkling waters? You know what I mean? Like, it just like didn't connect to me. Like, this is the replacement of alcohol, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to sip on a bunch of sparkling waters where I'm like, if you want a water, just get a cup of water. You know?
I'm now in that same space, which is crazy. I would have never thought that.
But like at the same time, like it's not like you need to be tipsy to go to bed, right? You just like you just want something fun in your mouth, and then you find there's so many fun replacements now.
I'll jump in on that real quick. So I've found the keys to how to unlock that. I mean, for me, I was super social, like straight up. I never had it. My dad I was raised with an alcoholic. I think that's partially why my dad passed away early because it just took a toll on him. And, but I never had an issue with alcohol ever. I mean, we had a full bar car full of wine, full of this, basically at my expense. And I just never, it was always social for me. The birthday, the friends, the one more, let's go out. And you're just looking like an idiot just standing there. And of course I enjoyed wine and margaritas and I wasn't doing shots or anything crazy like that. But I mean, I was beer bonging in Daytona Beach on spring break and, you know, doing all of that and flip cup and beer pong. Bitch, I was badass in all those games. But I would say as more of an adult, that I just was doing it, you know, maybe one glass of wine to chill me out during the week and then, you know, kind of living for the weekend to drink. But I would say that my tricks are honestly pour it in a wine glass. Mm-hmm. Like my red wine is kombucha. Or I got a juicer for a wedding gift. Thank you, Mary. And I make actually fresh juices like beets, like not sweet, like beet and celery and carrot and turmeric and ginger and all those things and a little bit of the, you know, orange or the grapefruit. It's still not even bad, but I had it. And then we add a sparkling water to it. And I went down the rabbit hole. I think Mike shared a few of his. We did the hop waters. You guys had that. I had those. And I was like, that turned me on. Mm-hmm. And then I went to the athlete. Yeah. And then I now onto that green and white one. It's like a 5-calorie, like it looks like orange. We had it at the park the other day.
The Hop Splash, Sierra Nevada?
That is my number one. And then Jason found some alternatives to wine. So I think it's just, what I'll say on that part is it's the mind. The mind wants to fucking bring you back. Well, it wants to trip you. It wants to say, bitch, you had a hard day. Open that bottle of Chardonnay. Take a gummy. Do this. And, you know, it's a struggle. But once you get past, I think it's the same as eating. I think it's the same as lifting weights. I think it's the same as running because I've been in all those zones very dialed in. And it's just once you look in the mirror and you see the momentum and where you were and where you're at, there's no way you want to take that back. Like right now, I'm like, I can't even imagine being hungover. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine feeling less motivated than I am now. I feel like I want to continue to show up. Now I feel less stiff. I feel less, I can breathe through my fucking nose again. I mean, it's endless. Yep. And people, you don't realize that until you let it go, you know, but anyways.
Yeah. Now I still do drink. I just don't drink as much and I'm pretty much never hungover. So I might have like 1 or 2 drinks or something, but, do want to preface that in case anyone sees me out in public.
Yeah.
Yo, bitch, you drinking. But the other thing I was going to say is I think the other part of why drinking happens so often, especially like on a weeknight or something, is because it's fun. Like, and to your point, you made it fun being sober. You're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make my own drinks and stuff like that. Making things fun makes it way easier to do. I do that with water. I have like my Awala 40 ounce.
Yeah.
And it's like heavy. It's 40 ounces. You know, it's heavy. And it's not fun to drink it every day, all day, get your gallon in thing, you know? So I'll literally put it in a glass, a clear glass, and I can see it. And for me, it's funner that way. It's easier. I can just chug it down when I'm in a call. I'm not swinging some big old jug. You know what I mean?
Put some bitters in it, slice some lemons,
Whatever
limes,
orange.
yeah.
Mio, whatever.
Yep.
And then when that gets boring to me, then I switch it up and I'm going to put it in this kind of glass, whatever it is to keep it fun to me, you know, keep it new, keep it fresh, keep it something different. It just helps, like you said, it helps that habit continue to grow.
And I think what people need to know in transformation, and that goes the same with eating. Bitch, if you're tired of eating the grilled chicken, there are a million other foods you can eat that are healthy.
Sure.
It's not chicken and brown rice. Think outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just squatting. There's other ways to work out your legs. If you hate working out your legs, think of it.
Nobody likes leg day.
Go beyond that, though. You know,
for sure.
You just think it's brown chicken and rice. I can't eat that. It's just water. I can't drink that. It's just push-ups and pull-ups. I haven't done that in how long? I can't do that.
It's fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And we all like to think we have growth mindsets, being like, oh, of course I can get better at my job. Of course I can learn more. Like, oh, I can learn more about this. We all will say we have growth mindsets, but yes, the second it comes in of maybe your eating habits or how you're getting your exercise or how you're drinking your alcohol, it's like, oh, I can't eat XYZ. And that's when it comes to transformations. It's not that complicated. Figure out your resting metabolic rate, how many calories you need to be eating, and then figure it out. Where can you get protein? Find what you like. Find what you don't like.
Yeah.
Stick to that. There's so many different seasonings. Like it's not what you see on the internet. It's not all boxed in one. I literally, I lost 100 pounds essentially eating the same thing. One of my dinners was always cheeseburgers, always using low carb, keto bread, ground beef patties with fat-free cheese and mustard.
That bread actually doesn't taste bad.
And it's just like, and right there, and the meal itself was 700 calories with 70 grams of protein. And it's like, and you can find what you like, and but the same way you're going to go at any task. Like if you have a job to do at work, you have to like come up with a plan. You have to come up with a plan. Yeah. And when it comes to the alcohol, like what you're saying, how it's fun, there's an entire book, another book that was a huge motivator, Michael Easter, The Comfort Crisis. We are natural, for as long as we've been a species,
routine.
We have been seeking comfort. And now where we are at now, like, so this idea of time flying by, the reason why time flies by is because of routine. Our brain condenses it to get us through it because going to work and stuff is uncomfortable. So your brain condenses it to make it feel shorter. And so that's why the weeks will go by. But we've been seeking comfort in every situation. We built shelter. We did all this stuff. And, we have to realize that as humans, we spent so much time starving. Like we figured out how to starve. The reason why I'm so addicted to endurance is because all humans were built for endurance. We walk on two legs for that reason. But we have been seeking comfort all the way into the development of the refrigerator, the air conditioner. Yeah. We've gotten to this point to where we're the most comfortable we've ever been.
You don't have to leave your house. Food comes to your door.
Don't need to hunt for food. You don't need to do exercise. Like there's so many things you don't have to do. You don't need to. If you don't want to be hot, you got the AC. If you don't want to be cold, you got the heat. There's everything down to our cars having heat and AC.
Pushing a freaking button versus turning the damn thing on.
And we're in the timeline where we have gotten, now we're at this point where it's a comfort crisis where people have a lack of sense of purpose. Kids' mental health is struggling. People aren't finding their identity. They're having a hard time bringing this purpose together.
Wow, yeah.
And so this idea and the way to kind of, by voluntarily becoming uncomfortable, so doing something very hard, like a 10-mile run, when you put yourself through the ringer on something that really makes you uncomfortable,
perspective,
you will always come out on the other end. You will always come out on the other end. Like when something really stinks, just like this is from the military, you learn it. Like when you do the crucible for 3 days, it stinks. But at the end of it, when you get the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, you're like, my God, what it was worth it.
Yeah.
And then what you look back is during that entire process, we always hear trust the process, it's the journey, not the destination. Really, that's the thing, that the prize is the process because you learn so much about yourself at that point. The finish line is just the reward. Like you get the reward, you get the little metal cool, but you get to take everything from that, whether it's that race, whether it's whatever it is, everything you took from that, whether it's a race or whether it's like something you really had to work on at work, a project, something you're fixing, you take all that work. Okay, you get the job well done, but then you can take all that and you move it towards the next thing.
Yeah.
And it's even better.
Building blocks. And the other cool part is I always say you can't connect the dots moving forward, but you can connect the dots moving backwards, and who you met and what you struggled through and what you went through and who you hate, what you hated and what you liked all got you to this point in your life. So all of that experience from climbing the mountain from point A to point, to the finish line was part of the journey, and you can't replace that, because without that, then you wouldn't be here in the better version of yourself,
That's why journaling is so powerful, because it actually, like, if you journal even 2 sentences a day, just going back and looking back at like the last year, the last 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, you're like, damn, I forgot I even did that. Oh shoot, that was a good day that day. Like just seeing that recap and that growth is so cool. Or even pictures too.
It's crazy that journaling is becoming such a trend again, only because Marcus Aurelius wrote the Meditations. Like this is Marcus Aurelius.
You have my journal book. It's all
let's go, baby.
here.
You have so many ancient people, but even going back to we can say modern warfare. We can go from maybe the era, like the 1700s all the way up until World War II. Like your everyday soldier who fought in these wars, you can read the letters that the people used to write to each other. I mean, the reason why we have information about certain wars throughout history are from the journals that soldiers, the memoirs that officers have written. And it's it was so, because there was no TV, there was no Instagram.
History. We have history because of journals.
Because of guys who journal,
guys
and girls, and women who journaled, and now
because we didn't have that. Wow!
But even if we had just photos, we wouldn't understand the feelings, the thoughts, the backstory of what that photo actually presented to. You know what I mean?
I've been a big believer in this, and I've seen some people on social media partake in this about finally hitting this point in their lives where they look good, maybe nose job, titties done, whatever they did, and they are now in a place of self confidence. And what they've done is erase all of who they were before, because now they're this version that they don't want anybody to look back on and see who they were or who they hung out with or what they were doing or dated or friends. And I was so for me, a lot of my stuff's private, but I'm sure there was a few podcast episodes. So I'm I could just erase that one. And now I'm doing better than I did when I first started, or, edit my Instagram from the very beginning ages of how that looked like to end. But I think the beauty in Facebook and Instagram and what we're producing out there, if you're just keeping it, is, one day when you're older or your kids find it or whoever finds it or you get dementia or whatever, you can't remember, you have something to look back on and remember your progress through that journey. And I think it's just so sometimes disappointing, although most people want to shine this light on themselves to make them look like the best version of themselves to everyone else. Yeah. But the authenticity and who you are now is because of that. I used to be so embarrassed of how I was raised and how I grew up as a poor kid in Florida, and my dad being an alcoholic. My mom had me at 17. There were so many reasons. I could run a CVS receipt on those things. And I was so I just made sure I hung out with the cool kids and, try to hide my passcode for free lunch, clicking in and stuff. And there was just so much of that going on. But now I finally, a while back though, now realized that I am not, when I said goodbye to my dad, I was there's many moments where I was embarrassed by that. But now I'm just I am so grateful for my past because it molded me into the person that I am today. And I know for certain that I am more humble about it and I have a different perspective on it. And I'm just so glad that now I value the things a little bit more than I probably ever would have if I was in those situations. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
big
that's
on
actually
that.
like a fear of mine is raising. Like I broke up. I grew up really broke as well, and so again, you learn so much from struggling and not having money. You know, not that we're rich now, but I do fear that like, are we going to be able to give Ledger that same lifestyle of like, you know, like we're not just going to spoil him with everything because it's so easy to do.
You know what it
I
will
mean?
be? It will be just different problems.
Yeah, for sure.
He will look at it like two moms. He will look at it, you know what I mean? For us in our upbringing, and you know, it was the dollar, it was certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It will be something for him.
Yeah,
because we all have it to some degree.
yeah,
you know, and I don't think as a parent that because I, you know, hung out, you know, my best friend, you know, prep school and private school and all the schools and money and things. And, you know, Jason had it really well growing up as a kid himself. And, you know, I clearly know him very well, and he would share things that are just different outside of what mine were. So I don't think as a parent you can ever like guard that because it will always be something else to some degree.
Yeah, I actually just heard a really cool story about a farmer on that. You probably have heard that story about a farmer. We won't need to get into it, but it was basically it's just going to be different problems, you know.
You know.
Yeah, nothing ever changes. I mean, I think like what is, you know, because Trina and I would like to have kids, and I think about kind of how I was brought up, and again, you know, I think about it from my dad's story because I'm my dad's son, and he himself. So I mean, he quit drinking in '93. My dad never finished high school, and so I mean, for my parents to have persevered the way they have had, and now they do, you know, they have one son who's a very top lawyer. They have another, but then they have me, and I kind of had to like figure this way out to where now I'm like, I have this good job within the trucking industry, and I'm, you know, competitive in my age group in triathlon, like to see that road, but like where they were at when me and my brother were like kids.
Oh my God.
I like think about those problems, and now like if Trina and I have kids, yeah, the problems are just going to be totally different. And it's wild to think about when it comes to kind of what mindset they were in 1990 versus what people's mindsets are in 2025. Like those problems, how they're gonna be different.
Yep.
Is like that's actually kind of mind blowing.
So don't like say that to say like what, you know, when you do become a father, which will be great, and you clearly are both great, amazing parents. That's just lifing. Yeah. You can't protect that, you know, and it'll always be something. So just do you be the best version of yourself for your child, and it will just, you know, you live life.
Yeah.
I want you to finish. Is there anything else before we wrap up here? Is there anything else you want to mention in your process? Because I want to do a little bit of a closing statement.
Yeah, for sure. I think honestly, overall, I will say mine is mostly mindset focused. Because again, it's all about progress and just kind of continuing to just move the needle, you know. Kind of what we've been talking about the whole day is that passion, you know, like everyone has passions about something. There's freaking people painting tennis courts on TikTok. We're getting millions of views. Guys cutting lawns getting millions of views. You know what I mean? Like,
and they're making money. Money.
So, like when someone's like, I don't have passions or I don't have there's something you like. It could be watching a movie, and there's TikToks. That's a career. Like you could be a movie critic, you know, like reviewing movies and have a TikTok on
that you like
reviews.
popcorn, eat all the popcorn and tell them what it's.
Yeah, you go travel around. Companies will start sending you popcorn and stuff. So it's like, when people say I don't have a passion, I think it's honestly just looking at my life, looking at like what brings me like a little spark, and then like how can I dive into that spark a little bit more? You know what I mean? And that's kind of where my thing's been, is just what I'm passionate about. I'm gonna dive in deeper, and then the people around me, like obviously you guys know, it's like it's a problem. Like I just am so, like you say you want to have a podcast. You said the same thing. You're like, I want to have a podcast. I'm like, dude, do it. do it. Do the podcast. Like, why not? Like, that's something that you have an itch for. Do it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You move to the next thing. You know what I mean? But it's taking that chance and just leaning in on those little moments that you don't think are anything, but they truly are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think too is, again, thinking about the generation of how, I think, I'm 44. You guys are a lot younger.
Barely. I'm 40.
Well, we're in that bubble.
35.
And I will say that we were groomed in that sense of, you get a job, you go to college, and this is the way. And we had a hard time saying, but I want to try out all the popcorn and be the best popcorn taster. Yeah. And us being, well, that's not a real job, and you can't do that, and you're not, how are you going to make money, and da-da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da-da. And I think that's always subconsciously back in our head, like that fear of like, but I really like to do it. How do I do it? But not only do it, become successful at it and make money to support myself. But again, once you jump over that, make that choice and make it happen, it's absolutely endless. And the doors start coming to you to open up and then make those decisions from there.
It's the door opening is where it's at. I can't say, like, I would have been, if I was still driving truck right now, I know exactly where I would drive. I'd be with my buddy Jamie Hagan, Hellbent Express, and I would be just as happy as I am now driving for him. But I'm not, because I had other doors open in so many different ways. So that's the thing. You just lean into what that passion is when you go into it, and you start having the conversations. You're big on manifesting. Mm-hmm. When you start having the conversations about what you're passionate about, when you just start talking and letting that out into the universe sees it. Yep. People see it,
hear it,
and they're going to start talking to you, and you get involved. You go to these meetings, you go to these meetups, and then the doors start opening, like, hey, what do you, and then they're like, hey, what do you do? Like, my friend has like, all of a sudden the doors start opening. You make the content. Like, if I didn't do the podcast, make a TikTok, do anything, like, just doing those things. And it was just me talking about why you should get in shape, why it's important to stay healthy as a truck driver, talking about Napoleon history, like things I think
look how it's blown up into. Yeah.
But it just,
and do it all. Who the fuck cares? Do it all. Why not? Yeah. If you're passionate about it, do it.
It'll open up the doors. You can't see the doors that are open. You're not going to see it off the bat. You're not going to it will be presented to you in due time, but you have to take the action and just move towards it. If you don't take the action, then those doors will be there, but they're going to remain closed.
And I'm going to send you both exactly what you're talking about that I just watched last week about manifestation and all that sort of stuff. And the biggest thing is, once you, again, take a leap, and I haven't told you guys this, but I quit my job last 2 weeks ago. Which I could go further. I'm going to save this for another podcast because we're ran over, but talk about my transformation of where I'm going through. Cause I feel like I've always had slight transformations and doing my thing, but I'm now taking that leap even further into that. And within 3 days of me leaving my job on my choice, never done that in my entire life. And what the crazy part was, not even scared, completely fearless for the first time ever. And now everything is happening fast. Doors. And I will say that, again, most people get stuck staring at the door and never opening it, thinking, running through all these things of what, why, what, how, why not, and talking themselves out of it, and just open up the door. That's how you get through the next part. And again, not every door is going to be probably a perfect opportunity for you and them, but that's where you trust your intuition and you trust your passion and you decide how you want to move forward with it. That's it. But there's a lot of versions of you and the path you want to take. Again, you have that choice, which a lot of people don't really think about.
Yeah, I want to say one thing really quick. Sorry. The other thing I think is really important too is people spend a lot of time looking outside at the world and social media, and even someone on TV, they go follow them on the gram and they know everything about their lives and they know all about their history and they know how they're feeling and they know all of the things, but they don't actually do that with themselves. They don't actually understand themselves, know themselves, they don't even trust themselves truly, right? Like, I can't do this
100%.
thing because I know I'm just going to quit. I always quit. I'm a quitter, whatever. You know what I mean? But they don't actually spend that time to understand themselves, to know, like, who am I truly? And they're just outsourcing all of their time and energy on other things besides themselves. And so that's another thing why journaling is important. But like, you could even do a chat GPT on some things that you're thinking, and have chat GPT like throw you some prompts or something on anything.
Oh, we best friends.
You know what I mean? And just allow you to just kind of ask yourself some questions that you might not think about. Just have chat GPT like give me 3 questions about something, you know, and then you actually genuinely think about it and you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize this about myself or something. You know what I mean? But like, people just don't do that these days.
But also, why would you spend hours? People spend hours of their time following these influencers, Kardashians, whoever it may be. And obviously there are people that are, you know, I'm not knocking that down. I mean, I'm a huge TV junkie myself, but why not invest in yourself and double down on yourself and get to know yourself? Do you, you know, like, you're right. Why they know so much, they can just go off about this person or celebrity
and their ex and their kid and
but they had nothing to say about themselves in that sense.
I got to say about the Kardashians, I used to be just like any guy would be like, oh, why do people love them? Blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, I'm here for
I've gotten to such a point now where I have just like the utmost respect for that entire family, because
if you got into the recent episodes, you would be like,
Hulu?
why?
Well, we had some on the TV, and like hearing the way that they're talking. I mean, these are like, and you know, not to go off on another diatribe, you guys know in real life, obviously read the Napoleon biography, big guy. They have the same kind of brain. Yep. They have a Napoleon type brain. Like these are people who are like, they can compartmentalize so many things. They care, number one, they very much care about their family, which I think is something
beyond.
Like they're very family oriented.
More than anybody I know about their families.
It's awesome. How, like seeing that kind of loyalty is profound, and it's something that you actually
doesn't
don't see
exist.
A lot. Yeah. But what they've managed to do, and I get it, you know, they had some clout from you know, things from the past, and I understand it. But instead of, you know, they could have let the clout from the past and some of the mistakes, you know, Kim K had the video. There are so many different directions they could have went, but instead they used it, and they used it in every single way they could to elevate their position. Because they could have because I mean, how many times do we see celebrities who like child stars, they fall off, this happens. Kim K had the rage. I get it. They, you know, but they took all of that, all the negative fuel and clout, and they've just continued to build.
They've been knocked down 100 times. Honestly, Dad's death.
Everybody wants
the trans Caitlyn and everything. And you know, to your point, and I'll let you finish real quick, but you know, I look at it like a relay race. You know, track 1's here, track 2's here, track 3's here, 4, all the way into the inner circle. You think that one person at the track, whatever number that is, looks like they're going to be in first place, and that's the same distance, the same whatever, but you think that it's all different head starts, but it's how they have insane amount of hurdles. I mean, although what's his name? This is like a whole nother episode. Odom, the basketball drug and alcohol and like so many things that could have like easy closed up shop, knocked up shop. Let's over. We're hearing this. Not, you know, Kim's like, you know, law degree. Does she need a law degree? No. Does she need to bail out people out of jail? No. Like, it's just like, so yeah, I just think it's just another example of judgment and taking what you have. And, you know, their CVS receipt looks a little bit different, but they're also not allowing people to control their narrative, and they're taking ownership in their life and evolving. It's okay to evolve. When I saw something, it's like, oh, you're different as a friend. Oh, you're different. Well, thank you, first of all, because you at this point you should be evolving. Like, if you're not evolving, then you're not experiencing life. You're not experiencing life.
Yeah. If you're the same guy you are from 5 years ago, there's a problem.
There is.
Like there's a huge problem. Not, you know, you might have the same job or whatever, but if you're the exact same person as you were 5 years ago, And I'm not saying, and 5 years ago, I wasn't a bad person either. You know, we met almost 5 years ago, and I wasn't a bad guy, but am I not different?
Oh,
Like,
you're every one of us.
it's like, it's not that any of us were worse or in any sort of, we've just continuously been getting better, just getting better at our relationships, how we speak with people, how we engage, how we deal with the outside world. But you have to lean into that. You have to choose it, or you can let it choose you, and you get rolled over.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to wrap it up real quick, I want to ask 2 questions, just kind of quick fire. What is the biggest advice for someone looking to start their transformation? If you could kind of give a little bit of a summary, what would that be? I know I know there's a lot and it's a heavier one, but like, where would you tell them to start?
I mean, obviously it depends on the type of transformation they're doing, but I would say find a community. There's free communities everywhere. You can do it online. You can find any type of community to join that's in that same realm. And just find something and just start. Whatever it is, just start. Even if it's just you doing a little bit of research and, you know, finding someone to follow that same path or something to guide you. Just start very small and just keep moving the needle.
That's literally what I had down. All of what we said. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's a broad question, like anybody wants to start, especially because, you know, I coach a lot of people within the supply chain world, and a lot of them it's healthy lifestyle habits. I'm kind of telling them where to start in general, especially for weight loss. But for anybody who's looking to transform, and I guess just going along with our conversation, that might mean, you know, a transformation could include doing what happens a lot, which is, you know, partying, living for the weekends, being, you know, linked up into that grind but the community is huge. The thing is, when it comes to being a part of a community, is the first thing I would say is you need to have an open and honest conversation with yourself and be ready to get vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Get ready to get vulnerable. Make peace with your past. Like, make peace with, because I can tell you, I've said bad things to bad people on the internet. You know, I've done a lot of crap talking. I haven't always been the nicest guy to certain people. I've been a little rough around the edges at certain times in the Marines, a little bit in college. I've been very, you know, short-tempered in a lot of things, short-sighted in some of my, you know, opinions or stuff, and how I would engage in conversation, which I think just has to do with also getting a little bit more mature in time. Everybody's a little bit more. Yep. Everybody shoots off the cuff. We've all been there. Yep. If you're looking to transform, make peace with your past immediately.
Huge one.
Use it. Yeah. Use your story and prime that story for exactly who and what you want to be. Start looking at yourself as the hero. Stop looking at yourself at the past. Make peace with your past, get vulnerable about it, talk about it, and then start writing that story of what you want to be, whatever that looks like. If that means if that means joining a certain gym, and I highlight Austin, you know, on it gym in Austin, Texas, like getting involved. There are people out there that want you to be with them. Yep. Be open to it.
Wow. Very well said. I had all of that written down. What I just came to think about was just, find someone that inspires you. Yep. Just stick with that one thing. Find someone that believes in you, because you need to, you know, it's tough, you know, when you're starting from nothing.
If it's not your circle, just use the community, but just don't be a lurker in the community. Actually talk. Right. And you'll find that support instantly.
And then ultimately, you know, find that confidence in yourself, again, to what you guys said, in community, and making ownership of your past, you know. All right. Well, how can they, if you want to inspire people, I like to close with, how can they find you? How do you support your community? How can you help others in their journey?
Oh yeah, I'm an open book. You can find me anywhere, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Lombard Trucking. Very easy to find. I got a Slack group that I've been growing, full of truck drivers, brokers, people within the supply chain. People.
You're also in a ton of run clubs.
Oh yeah, I'm always around. If you're in the Austin, Texas area, I'm always running around with the Endorphins crowd on Saturdays for 10 milers. They also meet on Mondays when I'm there. I go to On It Gym, which is, I can tell you, if you are in Austin, On It Gym, it's not what you might see on social media. You might think it's an influencer gym. It's one of the most welcoming communities of people who, wherever you're at, like the coaches there, they want you there. no matter where you're at.
Because I will
exercise,
say
fitness
too,
level.
a lot
Yeah.
of that has to do with intimidation for people that's starting out. I don't fit in there. I can't do CrossFit. I can't do that. It's not a cult, but it's they're living and breathing their own air.
Yep.
But what people don't realize is that they are so open and want you to be a part of that.
They truly are. And again, I do coach at 2 Orange Theory gyms here in Austin. And just like we talked about earlier of hiring from within in certain industries, I tell every first-time person, I've walked the walk. I've lost 100 pounds. I've been in the down deep. I know what it's like to believe that things aren't possible anymore. So in all sense of the means, I do work in the fitness space as a coach. So no matter where you're at in life, career-wise, if you're looking to make some sort of pivot, I've become a guy who knows a lot of other guys around the country now too. So depending on where you're trying to get linked up, again, I've walked that walk of losing 100 pounds and then continuing to do something with it. So yeah, you can find me on the mic at Orange Theory in Austin.
Awesome. Trina.
Yeah, you could find me not on Twitter really, but basically everywhere else. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook if you do that thing, at Trina Burks. And what else did you say? Now I'm drawing a blank.
No, that is pretty much it.
Yeah, you could find me there. If you're looking for a transformational coach, hit me up.
Yeah. I will say for two quick things about you guys is that you have obviously the transformations, senior transformations that you drop on Instagram from, I don't even know how many pounds to this pounds, and weight is a big thing, but I know it's not everything. It comes with energy. It comes with, self-worth, and there's so much behind the body. But you definitely live and breathe that. So if anybody taps into you with that, they will be motivated. And for you, as far as taking off on the mindset and dialing into how to be more productive and how to believe in yourself and how to, get up and do something great that day. Maybe you do something great today and then tomorrow you fall back, but how to get back up and become that better person and putting one foot in front of the other, I think is something that you do really, really well. So keep doing that for everybody. And that's it. So I do really appreciate your guys sharing your story. This is the longest podcast I have done, but it is very well worth it. And I can't wait to share this and hear what everyone had to say. So I appreciate you guys. Love you so much. Thanks for listening. Episode 10, season 1 is a wrap. And remember to keep Austin queered.